Oh my goodness, I can't do anything right. 4 a.m., 7 a.m., 9 a.m. I was like, I am right on time. This is hilarious. Did Jazz ever do the live? Was notification time wrong? I knew it was. I mean, when I saw 12 a.m., I was thinking, that's not right. Oh, God, I hate that. How are you guys? If anybody's here, let me go ahead and get started with all my normal stuff. I was so proud of myself for coming on time and not setting the time back because there's always like a million things that go wrong. Today, one of my outlets died, an entire outlet and a main outlet that I use to plug in all this cool stuff. So, and like the fan and one of these lights, and even my main light, and yeah, everything. So, Fred said, did she ever do the live? Was notification time wrong? Maybe she meant noon. That's what I hope. I have appointments, but can listen. Set alarm again. I like almost knowing the title. Oh, Granny Annie, you're so sweet. So yeah, I have 5 likes, but nobody's here yet today. I am so sorry, you guys. So everybody will be catching me on the replay, unless you happen to see that I'm live and catch me now spontaneously. So I will go ahead and keep reading your comments and then get started with my notes and all the regular stuff. So happy to be on live. It's been way too long. My doggie has had a really rough time, but she's all right. She's probably gonna come out of this unscathed, but right now she's hideously scathed. She's had a severe reaction to the radiation. She has what I call baboon butt, and it is not pretty. You know what baboon butt looks like. So her fur basically fell off, like her skin. Like they said her hair would fall out. They didn't say the skin would fall off, but like I said, she's having a severe reaction. So we've been at the vet like every day, pulling her through this really difficult time, and hopefully the tide is turning because she did so well through treatment. Anyway, I'm very grateful to be on with you live. I'm very grateful to have my doggies. Let me read the rest of this. Fred, none of us found it. I'm hoping AM/PM was the glitch, like Easter egg. Find Jazz. I'm the Easter egg. That's adorable. I love it. And I got my little princess thing going. I just went all wild with my hair at the last minute and put this thing in and put my hair up like, I don't know. I'm being fancy because I don't need a reason, right? Um, I guess we'll find out at noon. So, Raised from Perdition 2 times, Granny Annie and Fred Field. I hope you guys find me. And somebody is here and hit the like button because now we have 6 likes. So that's really cool. It sends out the message that I'm on to other people that might have their notifications turned on. If the person that I'm here can hit the hearts or make a comment, if there's no problems with the sound, I'm going to assume that there's not because I think everything's plugged in and you haven't said anything like, hey, no sound. So let's do the regular stuff. We'll start by knocking everything over, right? Oh, you guys are the bomb. I miss you. Even when I'm not like really talking to you in real time and I'm talking to you on replay time, that's really just as good for me. It's different. I really like having you guys here live, but I haven't been on live since Friday. No, Thursday, probably. I don't even remember. And today's Tuesday. So I've done some yoga videos. I've been able to keep up with my yoga almost every single day. So that's nice. That helps keep me healthy and helps keep me sane. And there's so much crazy going on right now, you guys. If you're here and can hit that heart button. Oh, we got 3 people. If one of you guys can just say, yeah, you can hear me, just to ease my anxiety. What? Doe's resignations? Mary Trump media? What? Today's top political headlines? Yeah. You guys know I watch Mary Trump a lot. I really like her. There's Don Lemon. Have you guys heard of him? He's the bomb diggity. I hear you perfect. Thank you, Jackie Bushable. I'm here for a minute. I have woodworking people coming soon. Oh, how exciting. That sounds really cool. I love it. So I was just checking to see when my last live was, and I think it was Thursday. It might have been Friday. It says here that it was 3 days ago, and it's the one called The Biggest Loser, Little Boy, Big E. How come I've never thought of calling our president McDonald? I mean, it seems like such an obvious kind of like trumpster fire. Anyway, I've just had it with this crap. So, Jackie Bushable, did you hear about this woman in Idaho at a? I put the link in my description. The woman in Idaho that was at a town hall meeting who got attacked, assaulted by three men. You did see that, Jackie? I was thinking of playing that part of it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I don't know. It's really hard to watch. It is extremely hard to watch for me, and I would imagine for pretty much anybody. Keith Edwards is the channel that I caught it Sunday night. It probably happened over the weekend. So this Idaho woman in Kootenai County, if I'm saying it right, they treated her terribly. They wouldn't have done that to a man. So Jackie, did you see the follow-up? Did you see that little girl, they kept calling her a little girl? She's a doctor. And she has a GoFundMe account that is already probably well over $100,000. It was $104,000 yesterday. And oh, that's funny. Anyway, so her name is out there in the public. It's Dr. Teresa Borenbull. And so, like I said, she's got a GoFundMe account. I'm going to put the link for the GoFundMe. Yeah, the woman that got taken out, she looked like a little girl. She did. She looked actually exactly like my son's girlfriend. And she also, Jackie, she ran for council. So she tried to get one of those seats. So to put the context into the conversation, the people on the stage, I don't know if they were like city council or Republican representatives. This is Kootenai County, Idaho. So it was like the Republican caucus of Idaho, something or another. And they were talking about Roe versus Wade. And she said, women are dying. Like she was speaking out loud. You could call it heckling. I would call it heckling, but it wasn't intrusive and it wasn't, I don't know. It's not what they said it was. They already had it out for her too, huh? Well, probably because yeah, this is a small town. I think Kootenai County. It's actually where the Gonzaleses are from. The Gonzaleses, the G family. They're from Kootenai County, and Steve G, Gonzo, as I like to call him, he's like the IT guy for Kootenai hospital systems, Kootenai County hospital systems. And she was sitting with all her little Democratic friends. So yeah, she was in her little Democratic corner, and she said women are dying, and the old man on the stage was just being very dismissive and rude. And then a man came over to try to get her out of her seat. Another man got out of the way so that he could get to her. She was just peacefully defiant and just sitting there minding her own business, not doing anything. And then three men put hands on her. So the first video that I have in the description right now, this Keith Edwards video, shows one of the guys like twisting her arm, and it looks very painful. They literally like picked her up and carried her out of there. And within 24 hours, she had a lawsuit filed. I believe that the chief of police has already fired people or put them on administrative leave. Like, things have been happening to make Idaho not look as bad as it's looked for so long. I mean, Idaho has looked bad way before the Idaho 4 happened, but I'm so pissed off about the Idaho 4. And let me get started with all my stuff that I like to do. The Idaho 4, you guys know a lot of new court documents have come out, and it's just as full of crap as ever. Please hit that like button if you don't mind. I know pretty much everybody here already has. We have 3 people in the house, woohoo, and 7 likes. Not that I'm counting, right? Make sure you're still subscribed if you are subscribed, and if you're not, consider doing so. Sometimes people get unsubscribed by the shadow banning. Sometimes they get unsubscribed because they want to be unsubscribed, and if that's the case, that's cool. You do your thing, I'll do mine. I'm just delighted to have the creative outlet to talk about justice, and the truth and the justice for me started with Kylie Rodney on this channel, and then it eventually went over to Idaho 4 and a bunch of other cases, and then it fell into the political trash not that long ago. And that's kind of where it exists. There's a lot of crimes going on right now, Jackie. I think that the president's going to steal the freaking gold from Fort Knox. Like, why in the F do they think they need to go there? And they better have a lot of drones videotaping everything. But all the documents that they have going for all these crazy things that the Doge is doing, all those documents are restricted by like presidential hyperbole, let's say. So nobody's going to be able to see what actually happened for a few years. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like it, or another radical rebel. And turn on your notification bell to ring. And honestly, I feel pretty middle of the road. I'm sure that conservatives would see me as a lib, and I'm sure a lot of libs would see me as not conservative, but maybe middle of the road. I grew up with hippie parents and Republican grandparents. My granddad was a colonel in the Army for 30 years. My grandparents had way more influence over me than my parents did, because my grandparents were my anchor. My parents were pretty crazy. If you've watched my channel, you know. Anyway, so that's just a little bit about my background. And, you know, I'm married to law enforcement. So my husband, first responders tend to be conservatives. And I have, I'm a licensed mental health professional with training in art therapy. So those things kind of, I would say, put me more in the liberal side of things. But I don't even like the labels. I am what I am, you know? And I think it's important to pay attention to how we feel and what we think, and trust ourselves and not listen to what other people have to say, not to take them at face value. Like, just because we like someone in general, it doesn't mean that we're going to agree with them on everything. And it's important to make up our own minds. But let me finish the rest of what I was saying. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation. What did I knock down? Open up a discussion, learn something. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform. And I think that's about it. I think that's all the basics covered. So I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. I've been calling that doctor, Dr. Rosa Parks, because what happened there in Kootenai County might just be more of a instigation for the freedom fighters than she had any idea. And it's all on videotape. A lot of people were taking pictures and videotaping. And not only did Keith Edwards play it, but now Brian Taylor Cohen has played it, I think. Don Lemon played it. I was thinking of playing it for you guys, but like I said, it's really awful to watch. And I know it's sometimes really hard to see what's going on the phone screen. We can give it a shot. Let's see. Unless you have any objection. If anybody here says, no, don't do it, then I won't. I will respect my viewers that speak up. Speak now or forever hold your peace. So it is really, really hard to watch. And I have my volume turned down. I'll turn it up once I get there. I'm almost there. Okay, here we go. Keith Edwards is a really cool guy. I have only discovered him in the last couple of weeks, and I really like his style. He played this warning people how difficult it is to watch. And it is extremely difficult to watch. But what I want to say is that it's less difficult, in my opinion, knowing that she's not a little girl and she knows how to handle herself and that she's fighting back and that some of the local officials are doing the right thing. So let's see if I can play it.
Where the F are the not all men to step in and stand up for this woman? How are they letting this happen? This is a Democrat in a Republican meeting. And because she was shouting in a town hall, these men who would not identify themselves with no badges and this sheriff who was off duty physically tried removing her. I have a story. I have like the context around this. I'm going to show you, but I just want to show you this video first. I'm not going to interrupt it. I'm going to play it all the way through. It's important to watch. It's hard to watch. It's infuriating. If I were there, I would have started throwing punches on these men because how dare they put their hands on her when likely they are not even deputies or cops. Here's the video.
Women are dying.
Ever since the Roe versus Wade, so doctors are protected against having to be forced to do abortions. All right, hold on one moment here. Okay, again, you folks who are just popping off with stupid remarks, you're not taking into account the people sitting next to you. There's a bunch of people that came here to hear them. There's an opportunity for you to sound off, but not right now.
Let me point out what she just said in case you can't understand. She said, is this a town hall or a lecture? Which I thought was very intelligent of her. And the guy on the stage, he's not intelligent enough to know that, yeah, this is a town hall.
It's not a town hall.
You're just crazy people. And what we're doing right now is
Idaho, man. It's so sexist.
Get up or be arrested. So folks, when our nation began, there was some.
So they're threatening to arrest her for asking if this was a town hall or a lecture, and she's really good at standing her ground. And there's 3 of them, and there's one of her. I mean, she has her little girl friends, but they're all trying to peacefully protest, so they're just videotaping.
Really,
You're going to arrest her?
No, I'm not recognizing you.
What would you like to do?
So, yes, we're going to get to him. We're going to get to him. I promise. We'll get
Yes,
to
it is.
plenty of chances.
This is not a negotiation.
But, the problem is the folks. Oh, look at that. Oh, he's showing how intelligent he is. Me too. And all the words in that. This was a mission. They came here to disrupt so that the citizens can't hear. The reality is there's a whole bunch of weird things that are happening. The problem is we got a bunch of rabble-rousers.
Rabble-rousers.
So,
Truth tellers are rabble-rousers. People who ask questions are rabble-rousers. Like, what a weird word. That just shows what a wacky old man he is.
Please get up or be escorted out.
We're just taking care of the rabble-rousers. He says it again.
You're going to be over all of you. And I can afraid to leave. She spoke up.
This little girl is afraid to leave. This guy's a nut job.
Now she doesn't want to suffer the consequences. Isn't that the problem that we're struggling with so many of the people? Is they want to behave poorly and then not struggle with the consequences.
So, Jackie, you said you did see this. I don't know if you're able to type still.
Is a situation where these folks are trying to filibuster and shut this whole program down. Unfortunately, we're being successful. So all of you who came here to hear the legislators, I applaud you for sitting there and quietly listening. I promise we will get back to you. In the meantime, I know we've just got to be a little aggressive with some of these folks here.
She's trying to get them to identify themselves, and she knows the sheriff by name. She talks to him in a minute. He's across the room. I think it's Sheriff Norris. It might be Sheriff Morris, but then he starts yelling at her too.
Style and substance in the
This is where it gets really scary. It's like a feeding frenzy. It's a Republican town hall. This is happening all over the country right now. That is chilling. He says if you would cooperate, this would be 100 times easier. And she says that's what they say to rapists. Or something like that. I didn't say that right. That's what they say to rape victims.
Disturbing to watch, like I said, infuriating. This is the United States of America. Women being forcibly removed from town halls for speaking up. All right, here's the context. Multiple Democrats forcibly removed from Kootenai County Republican Central Committee Town Hall. This is from an Idaho news site. According to...
I'm not going to play that because it's a pack of lies. Maybe I'll read some of it. It's crazy. They basically take everything out of context and say she was saying and doing things that she was not saying and doing. Like I said, there's been legal action taken already by her and by local law enforcement. I'll set that down for now. And let's see. So many notes. I was looking at the last live that I did to confirm that it was Friday, I think. I was able to keep up last week, despite the fact that I had extra doggy doctor appointments to go to, and then had to take her to the doctor every day since Friday. Today's Tuesday. So I took her Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And hopefully we're out of the crisis zone. Let's see. That live...
I'm probably the only person online who shares
is from February 21st, and today's the 25th. So yeah, today's Tuesday the 25th, and that was Friday the 21st. So that's pretty good. I think I got 4 lives done last week. And like I said, I've probably done 4 yoga videos since then. I tend to get my yoga videos done every day right now, especially with all the stress and with the doggy stuff. And the animals come into the yoga videos. If you haven't watched them, it's kind of humorous. But if you're doing the yoga with me, you probably wouldn't have a visual on the pets. Coco's usually laying up on the bed with her cone of admonishment, the cone of shame on. And Mookie is jumping all around me, sometimes yapping with that annoying little dog voice. And then the cat's the worst. I have 3 cats, and only one of them that hassles me when I'm up there on the second floor in our bedroom doing the yoga videos. And it's not the first time she's done this. She did this last night where she sits on the freaking keyboard and turns the computer off, basically. So I just pick up right where I left off and then have to split the yoga video up into 2 parts, but that's probably not anybody's concern as much as it is my concern. And it's just annoying to have a cat that does that. I could lock her out, but then she'd probably just scratch at the door. So, there was a lot that I wanted to keep talking about with the Gabby Petito. And I'm just looking at where the notes left off. Okay, Pratt. Officer Eric Pratt in the Gabby Petito, Brian Laundrie domestic violence video. And the fact that he spoke with the guy who placed one of the 911 calls in downtown Moab when Brian Laundrie was assaulting Gabby. And I want to talk about this for a moment because the bulldozing through or the glossing over of domestic violence in general, especially fatalities. And we know for a fact that Gabby was a fatal domestic violence victim. We don't know that about Kylie Rodney. We don't know that about Idaho 4, but what they do have in common is that these are all beautiful young women who just happen to get extinguished. So it could be domestic violence in those other cases as well. And the violence that these 3 men were perpetrating on this woman in this town hall in front of the sheriff was allowing it. But I'm going to guess that it's the city police that have the jurisdiction over the sheriff. And I believe that the 3 men that dragged her out of there, that were twisting her arm and attacking her, I believe that they were like hired security or something. But where I live, we've had people in our town halls be defiant and get arrested, and nothing like what happened there. But again, she's not only a woman, she was a young woman, and maybe they knew she was a doctor, maybe they didn't. I don't know what type of doctor she is. People tend to have a lot more respect for medical doctors than they do for somebody who's like a doctor of archaeology or anthropology or what is the insect one? Entomology. Anyway, maybe she's a psychologist. Who knows? She's probably a psychologist. I'm just going to take a wild guess. Whatever it is, she's well educated and she's confident and she's outspoken and she knows how to handle herself. And she's also good looking. So smart, confident, beautiful, what you might call a triple threat. And then you've got like the gray old man on the stage talking about taking women's rights away. And, it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting. Anyway, back to Gabby. The thing that I did not say in my last video that I really wanted to say, so I'm glad I'm starting with this, sort of. I mean, we're already halfway into the video. So starting with the scratches on Brian's face. You guys, I'm going to put a link in the description to Paula Plunder's video of Melissa Hall's body cam videos. And she finally got 3 of them sent to her, which I don't know why. I've never had any of them sent to me, because the FBI keeps sending me letters updating me that they're still not sending it to me. But maybe she sent them like a intent to sue. I bet she did, because that's usually how you get it done. And that was what she did with the Watts case, to get that 3-hour and 33-minute video of Nicole Kessinger, the interview with her daddy. And anyway, so they've sent her 3 parts of Melissa Hall's body cam video, but they're still missing like 35 minutes of it. And I'm just so curious what is missing. A couple of things. So Melissa and Gabby are having a very intelligent and precise conversation. Melissa's really trying to make sure that Gabby's okay, and she's trying to get through to her that, you know, this is a really bad situation. It's not just kind of bad, it's really bad. And she asks Gabby several times about the scratches on Brian's face. And as much as Gabby's completely honest and willing to admit that she assaulted him, that she hit him, that she slapped him, I think is what she says, she is literally like, I have no idea how he got those scratches on his face. And so it dawned on me when I was watching the Melissa Hall body cam videos that just got dropped on Friday night by Plunder. And she has dropped some of the Melissa Hall body camera videos before, but this was like all of it. It was the first time it dawned on me that he probably scratched himself. You know, a lot of freaks do stuff like that to get attention or to set it up. You know, he knows that people saw him assaulting her. The really important thing I want to get to is that there were 2 911 calls, and in the body cam footage of Melissa Hall's, maybe in some of the other police body cam footage too. I've watched so much of that footage, it's crazy making. They sort of accidentally mentioned the second call that they never talk about. So there were 2 separate 911 calls from the domestic violence incident. They really only focus on the one that was the guy whose voice we've probably all heard. And then the other one, they don't say anything about. And that's the one that I suspect very well could have been Kylan or Crystal. Or even if it wasn't, even if it was a woman and Brian Laundrie thought that it was Kylan or Crystal. Because you have to remember, they ended up with a half a dozen slugs in their backs within 48 hours. And Kylan was in very close proximity to Gabby for probably the whole 5 hours that Gabby was sitting there working on her computer. And then at the end of the day, Kylan's shift was from 6 a.m. until 2 p.m. at the Moonflower Co-op, where she was selling produce outside. And Gabby was at a little coffee table outside of the coffee shop next door. I finally got that picture clear. That, you know, for a long time, people wondered if there was like a coffee table in front of the co-op, but it's just right next to the co-op. And then Crystal got off from work at her job as a manager at McDonald's, and then she came over to see Kylan at the end of her shift. So it could be that they all 3 knew each other. A lot of other information that's missing from the Gabby Petito case, and will probably always be missing, but maybe we can get some of it, is how long were Gabby and Brian in Moab before this happened? Moab is a teeny tiny town of 5,000 people. So in towns that small, everybody knows everybody. And when visitors come through, if they're staying, if they're not just like driving through for the day, they'll be noticed, they'll be interacted with. And we don't know how many days they stayed after the incident that happened on the 12th. We finally know that they did spend the night together that night when they weren't supposed to. And then we know that they were checking into a hotel in Salt Lake City about 6 days later. 5 days later, the 17th, I think, was when Gabby checked into that hotel. And then Brian flew to Florida to quote unquote clean out a locker to save money. And then he flew back the 23rd, I think. And then she was deceased the 27th. So I have a couple of things to say about all of this. I think that Eric Pratt was extremely inappropriate with his entire take on the domestic violence situation, and that he was almost punishing Gabby for his ex-girlfriend's speaking up about his domestic violence towards her that caused him to lose his job as a chief of a police department in Salida, Utah. So it was obvious during that whole interaction that he was having a very hard time separating himself from the situation, that he was blurring his lines, and he kept talking about his interpersonal stuff. That's completely insane. And then he's trying to train this guy who's putting chewing tobacco in his mouth, which is probably not allowed. Again, this is a year post-COVID, so if you have chewing tobacco in your mouth, you're going to be spitting. But a lot of, if not most, if not all, police departments don't allow the use of nicotine while on duty. So the guy's putting nicotine in his mouth, going, as Pratt's giving him instruction on how to handle the situation, saying, we really don't have any discretion because I don't have a crystal ball or anything, but, within a very short period of time, if we don't handle the situation right, a domestic violence victim could it could turn into a lethal situation. And he says crazy things like, I don't really care what you do with it. And the guy's just nodding, as he's putting more skull or whatever disgusting crap in his mouth. And then I'm going to guess that there was a lot more of Brian beating Gabby after that whole thing, even though she tried to take all the blame and she tried to keep him out of trouble. That's just how those situations go. The woman that got taken out, OMG, they already had it in for her. Yeah. Sorry, I thought those were new comments. And the reason I was talking about all this is because I'm thinking that Gabby might have been hiding out in that hotel for those 6 days to let a lot of bruises and fat lips heal. We know that she dropped her only YouTube video on her Nomadic Static channel on the 19th. So all it took was Brian being out of town for 48 hours. By then it was probably their 43rd day of the road trip, and she's finally able to get this video up because he just kept getting in her way. He kept making it impossible for her to do what she was trying to do. And when she was in the hotel, she had conversation, I think a phone conversation with her father, with Joe Petito. I don't think she interacted with her mom or with Rose. And my guess is that if she had even texted them, that they would have asked what was up. She would have said she was in a hotel. They would have said, well, why don't we go on FaceTime? And she didn't want to do that. And her father, maybe he even said, hey, let's go on FaceTime. And she was like, no, I'm too busy or something, right? I mean, who knows? But females tend to be more social and interactive. And I would really think that her mom and Rose would have wanted to go on FaceTime. Anyway, I think that when Brian got back on the 23rd, it was a couple of days before there's anything that we know of in the case. She got back the 23rd, I think. I don't know if we really have anything on where they were going, what they were doing until the 27th. But some of the things I've thought about is I've wondered if Gabby knew, like, let's just say for my hypothesis that Brian unalived Crystal and Kylan, Gabby could have known about it, right? I doubt she did. Let's say that he did it. She didn't know. He leaves and she sees it on the news. She sees these two women that she was familiar with from Moab. So she's in the hotel room. She catches it on the news. And maybe she says to Brian, like, oh my goodness, those two women, the ones that we saw in front of the Moonflower, somebody shot them 2 days after we were there in front of the Moonflower, and they were too. And maybe that had something to do with him taking Gabby's life. Maybe. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that it's something that I've thought about. I thought more about it over this past weekend. What else? Should we talk about Elon? Should we just get straight into that crap? Because I mentioned the thing about how I'm really concerned that President McDonald and his crew are going to Fort Knox. He says he wants to see the gold. Like, WTF, man. I think he wants to steal the gold. Again, this is just my opinion, and maybe I'm jumping to crazy conclusions, but I'm thinking that he probably wants to steal the gold to give it to Vladimir. I don't know. That's my fear. It's like the fox watching the hen house, right? That whole thing with that damn chainsaw with Elon and his, this chainsaw is for the bureaucracy. It's like, no, dude, the chainsaw is for democracy, obviously. And obviously, this whole thing is about these two man babies. Elon, he's so dirty. He's so dirty. And I feel like our president is just as dirty. And they're in bed together, basically. So you guys have probably all seen the video footage, no pun intended, of Trump licking the feet of Elon, that somebody like hacked into, I think, the IRS department or one of the federal departments, and put this artificial intelligence video up on all of the television screens in the establishment. And I mean, humiliating, absolutely humiliating. He's not just licking his feet. He's doing it in the most like X-rated way. It's insane. I almost wonder if they got the footage for the artificial intelligence, if they used the footage of him doing what he did to that poor Mike at the podium in the last few days of the presidential campaign. I mean, he should be arrested for that, in my opinion, but that's just a joke. Truth to every joke, right? But this whole thing with like this like wrestling match kind of mentality with Elon and with Trumpster fire is insane. The grunts and the groans, it's very animalistic. They both are really into the whole like Terminator thing, trying to look tough, trying to look like badasses, trying to look like gangsters. like, WTF, man? Like, what has our country turned into? It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. These people are like cartoon characters of themselves. And the whole thing with going into Fort Knox to look at the gold is like so freakishly cartoonish. It's like they just keep cranking it up a notch. They keep getting away with the craziest stuff. And the more they get away with, the wilder they run with it. So I just don't know how much worse it can get before the crash and the burn. I mean, it's like this mania, especially with Elon, but really obviously he's the guy in control. He, the President McDonald is just his puppet, and Putin's puppet too. And to see the United Nations and NATO and all of these world leaders speaking out against our country is so crazy. Like, so we're at the precipice of crossing that threshold, or have we already crossed that threshold? That is absolutely frightening and just way beyond what the forefathers of this nation stood for and set up this country to be back in the olden days, shall we say. But the Civil War was 1861 to 1865, right? The Civil War. It's just very disturbing. Very disturbing. So, one of the things that was so disturbing to me about the whole chainsaw for bureaucracy wrestling match act that Big E did on stage. I mean, that whole thing was just an act, and he seemed high as a kite, did he not? Oh, Granny Annie, traveling again. Just saw you're on. Sorry, Aaron Day. You're good. You're good. Thanks for coming in and saying hi. So it's always good to get errands done. I have a lot to get done because I've been so busy nursing my doggy, but I wanted to get my video done first, and then I'll do my errands later. So the thing with little E or big E is that whole dark MAGA going gothic. You saw his hat at the chainsaw incident, like talking about waste, fraud, and abuse. It's projection or confession, in my estimation, in my opinion. All these billions are just so abstract. You know, they talk about millions of dollars and then they turn it into billions of dollars, they being big E and little t. Then they turn it into trillions of dollars. It is seriously like Austin Powers bazillions of dollars, or is it gazillions of dollars? Like, it is just completely out of control. Like, they're just feral. They're just off the chain. They want to shut down the IRS. You know, I've had to pay a lot in taxes at the end of the fiscal year when I had my private practice and was raking in the dough and wasn't doing a good job with figuring all that out in advance, and then getting hit with thousands of dollars at tax time and having to come up with it all at once. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And it's just so simple that it's like, yeah, no one likes to pay their hard-earned money, especially if they don't have it stashed away to pay it and they have to come up with it, and they have to, you know, pull it out of their rear end or borrow it, or, you know, get a loan from a loan shark. I mean, whatever it takes. You don't want to be in trouble with the IRS. Like, they are not somebody you want to be on their shit list, so to speak. So Elon, Big E, with his Stargate and Tesla and bazillions, gazillions, trillions of dollars, how much would he owe in taxes right now? Of course he wants to tear the IRS apart. I mean, and he doesn't really have any money, apparently. Like his stocks are what his worth is based on. His stocks go falling dramatically. Even when his stocks are doing well, he takes loans out against his stocks or something like that. Like that's how he has cash to do what he does. I don't know. Sorry. But yeah, let me see what Granny Annie's saying. Taxes on private businesses tough. Yeah. Pay Social Security 2 times, my friend says. Well, and just the whole thing with Social Security, it's always been very tenuous. I think most of the country has always been concerned that the people that have been paying into it for the last 30 or 40 years, that it might not be there for them to draw on when they're of retirement age. And it's not like it's a great system. I mean, it's a reasonable system, I guess, at best, but it is a system. It's something. And it's just looking more and more like the whole thing is just going to be unalived, basically. Moscow is woman bad. Undercover cops told guy to go home and kept Buzz girl, said they'd get her home safe, just left her there. Oh, is this another situation, Granny Annie, that I don't know about? Oh, are you talking about in Pullman? Are you talking about that 18-year-old with, oh, what were those officers' names? There was a Pullman officer and the Wazoo officer, Matt, the same Wazoo officer that got everybody fired. Is it Matthew Kerr? I can never remember the Pullman officer name, but I usually can remember the Wazoo officer. Are you talking about that situation with that 18-year-old girl, Annie? That's a good one to bring up. I mean, that was years ago, but it's still a good one to bring up because they both assaulted her. And then, let's see, and they were both sergeants. I think it's Matthew Kurt. Is that right? Kurt from Wazoo. Yeah, it's Kurt, Kuhrt. Predatory grooming behavior. Wazoo police sergeant accused. So Matthew Kurt was the guy who got the entire command staff fired at Wazoo. And then his last day was November 4th of 2022. And then the Idaho 4 happened on the 13th. And I got to say, I get so sick of every time it's brought up, the off-campus housing. It's like, it is college housing. Hey, Sherry, what's up? Nice to see you. Thanks for saying hi. The fact that it is like a stone's throw away from the college is almost immaterial. And all of these documents that have come to light of real recent that are supposedly, just burying Koberger in evidence, I don't see it. Like, I don't know. Am I just a pro burger? I just don't see it. I see it as more BS, like Brett Payne saying that he didn't know Koberger. Why is he saying that he didn't know Koberger? Did somebody ask him, do you know this guy? He's just like, yeah, I don't know this guy. It's like, no, you probably do, because you're in law enforcement in Moscow. He's trying to be in law enforcement in a doctoral program in Pullman. The two towns are like 7 miles apart. The two police departments kind of work together. He interviewed with the Pullman PD, which I really think he got that position. I really think he was hired. I think there's so much funky business. So Matthew Kurt, and then the other guy, Granny Annie, the 18-year-old, let's see. The Dan Hargraves. Okay, so Dan Hargraves was the other police sergeant from Pullman PD. Excuse me. You know, I love it when I'm in the habit of doing my videos every day because I'm much more capable. The judge is so corrupt, just like with the Delphi case, in my opinion. The whole case is so corrupt. So, Sherry, have you seen this thing with this young woman at a town hall meeting over the weekend who got manhandled by 3 men and physically assaulted and dragged out of this town hall meeting for basically asking, is this a town hall meeting or a lecture? And asking or stating that, you know, women are dying because of the Roe versus Wade stuff. And that girl, oh, I played it at the beginning of the thing, but here I'll just show a picture. I think I took a screenshot. That little girl is a doctor. Here we go. I did take a screenshot. Dr. Teresa Borenpole. And I'm going to put, she looks like a woman that's maybe 30 years old in that photograph. She's very pretty. In the video, she looks like my son's 18-year-old girlfriend. I mean, she does look young, but still, like, they're calling her a little girl, like trying to insult her. Like, what's wrong with being a young woman? What's wrong with being a little girl? I guess if you're in Idaho, it can get you killed, right? So anyway, she was assaulted, and it's just disgusting to me how Idaho treats women. I've always thought that this case with the Idaho 4 was misogynistic, even though there was one guy who lost his life in the slaughter. I think he was collateral damage, but I don't know. I mean, he might have been a target. There was that whole thing with the fight at the Sigma Chi, right? The whole thing with David Loach with his junk shrinking and him having a crush on Xana and Ethan and him getting into a fist fight. And then nobody knowing where Ethan and Xana were for 5 hours between the fist fight that was maybe somewhere around 9 o'clock in the evening, and then allegedly her being on her phone at like 4 in the morning and getting the food delivered. They could have been unalived at that frat house, in my opinion, and then staged at the house, and it could have been all staged, the whole thing with like her being on TikTok or whatever it was, and also interacting with her dad, because the interactions with her dad, I'm pretty sure were just text, right? Was that a phone conversation or was that just text? Anyway, I know I'm all over the place, like normal. That's just kind of how I am, especially when I haven't been on for a while, and especially when I'm dealing with all the stress of the dog. But the dog is doing well at the moment. So, yes, the cases are corrupt. Yes, very, very corrupt. Well, and the Gabby Petito cases too, and the Kylan Schulte, Crystal Turner is too. There's no way that Brian Laundrie offed himself. He had ample opportunity to get the H out of Dodge. The whole thing with the parents and him allegedly going camping up by St. Petersburg as soon as he gets back from camping, like, that's bizarre. That is bizarre. Glad Coco is doing good. Yeah, me too. Me too. She's such a sweetheart. And, you know, she is 10, but she could have another 5 years of goodness if she recovers from the severe reaction that she's had to the radiation. So Cancer is not the issue now. It's infection, risk of infection, basically. So we got to just keep a really close eye on her and keep taking her back to the vet. And it's just a lot of time and a lot of money. And we're happy to do it. Hopefully it's not in vain, right? So that the GoFundMe that is for Dr. Teresa Borenpol had a $30,000 goal, and within 24 hours it was six figures. I'm curious what it is now. I'll find out when I put that link in the description. But let me see what else I have that I really wanted to talk about. I'm so sick of the fake emotion, the fake anger coming from the dumpster fire side. Like, for instance, Caroline with a K, Levitt, and her getting all mad at people about anything she can possibly get mad at, and just attacking people, attacking reporters, and telling them that they're bad reporters, that, if they're asking questions, it's like, no, we're supposed to be able to ask questions. The problem is when they don't have an answer, or when the answer is troubling, and so they want to lie, they want to obfuscate, they want to distract. So they start in with all this other crazy stuff. And the gaslighting. The gaslighting is just completely off the rails. So what they do when they don't have anything to defend themselves with, because they're basically being corrupt and criminal and they're being called out, is they just start criticizing you and everybody else, and they start making fun of. And to me, that's just so weird. The making fun of is so juvenile. Like, it's such a middle school mentality. And I saw that early on with some of this stuff, where it was like, let's just make fun of them. If they start calling out the president for the things he's doing wrong, let's just make fun of them. If they start calling out Doge for being bullcrap, let's just make fun of them. Oh, okay. For most grown-ups, and probably even most middle schoolers, making fun of them isn't really going to affect them, because, cluck, cluck, I'm a duck. It's like water off my back. But if you're doing that, what's the motivation? Why would you be making fun of me? I don't know. I don't get a lot of that in my chat. I don't get a lot of that in my comments. I do get some, and some of it I know is for real people that have different opinions, and I'm all for it. Have whatever opinion you want. I don't understand why people would want to waste their time getting into it, really. What I want to say is that I think a lot of those people aren't really people. I think a lot of them are AI bots. And I had one in my chat a few days ago, and it took me days to figure out that it was an AI bot, because they weren't speaking in complete sentences. They weren't using words correctly. And at first I thought, okay, a lot of people just get fat thumbs when they're texting and when they're commenting on YouTube live. And so I was giving them a lot of leeway and trying to figure out what they were trying to say and asking them what they were trying to say. And they weren't able to respond to my direct questions. So I'm kind of thick. It took me a couple of days to realize, oh, because they were a bot. Okay. That's my opinion, and that's what I think. But did you know that the country of Brazil, that they won't allow Big E to shitpost on his own platform on X? They just won't allow it. They're just like, nope, that's not happening. But my fear is that for the Big E and the little T, they both I said the thing earlier about how cartoonish they are and how they don't seem to understand real life. I mean, they were both born multimillionaires from day one. They don't have a clue of what real life is like, in my opinion. Not a clue. And it's almost like they think this whole thing is just like a video game or a movie. They think it's a movie. And the whole thing with going to the Fort Knox, it's like, what, are they playing Fortnite? Is that it? I think so. But when Elon was doing his Chainsaw Man routine on stage a few days ago, I think that was Thursday or Friday, when he was waving that thing around and grunting and going, chainsaw for democracy, chainsaw. And it was like this thug Argentinian president who handed it to him, who also looked like a cartoon with his big sideburns. Musk was sitting there in an interview and he had so much trouble talking. Like, all he was doing was stuttering. And I don't like to criticize people for stuttering or for having trouble finding the right words. That happens to anybody. But this was a conversation that he wasn't really having, because it was like he was just blocked. He had like a mental block and a verbal block. And him saying that he's autistic, I think, is ridiculous. I think he is lying. I think he's high as a kite on drugs, and that he's doing a major disservice to everybody who is actually on the spectrum. Like, being autistic doesn't make you evil, okay? Not at all. But he is out of his mind. So he was talking about a world leader who, and I don't have the guy's name written down. I don't remember which one it was, but he was saying that the guy called him and said that he said to Big E that he was concerned for his safety. He was concerned for Musk's safety. And Musk was like, "Oh, wow, why would he be concerned for my safety? Like, he's a big tough guy. He imprisoned 100,000 dangerous thugs, and he's calling me, telling me that he's concerned for my safety." And I don't know, you guys, I'm curious what you think. To me, that sounds like a thinly veiled threat for somebody who's imprisoned 100,000 violent thugs to call you and say, "I'm concerned for your safety." I think that was a thinly veiled threat, and that E just wasn't smart enough to figure that out. But another one of the really fake things is these, like, they call them like softball questions, but it was Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, who's like a quote unquote reporter, who was asking President McDonald about his great ratings and his great this and his great that. And he was phrasing it as a question as a reporter, but he was just making these statements. So it was like the Harvard review that was saying that he has the best ratings and that everybody thinks he's doing great. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend just wanted him to comment on it. It's like, that's not a question. And that's not really, it was so out of context in the situation. So out of context. But the other thing that the dumb Trumpster fire likes to do, have you guys noticed that he points a lot? And especially at times like when a reporter is asking him questions, that he just wants to make fun of the reporter and say, "You're being stupid, leave me alone." And then he points to somebody else to change the subject. But the way he uses his pointer finger reminds me so much of a toddler. Anybody who's raised little kids or taken care of little kids knows that once they start walking and talking, like maybe around 13 months old,
They discover their pointer finger. They discover the power of their pointer finger when they point to things that people look, and they just go wild with it. They love pointing. And that's what that man baby reminds me of every time he whips out the power finger. Oh my goodness. I can't help but think about all these like 007 movies and Austin Power movies. And now we have like the gold in Fort Knox, and it just makes me think of Goldmember right away, especially because we know that President McDonald loves to talk about people's junk and the size of it, right? It's one of his favorite topics. So there are a lot of really disturbing things in our media right now. And there's also a lot of really hopeful things in the media right now. So some of the really hopeful things are all these Republican districts that are having these town halls similar to the one that I showed you that's in the description with that doctor, the redheaded doctor, the young woman. I mean, the little girl, sorry, the little girl doctor. But in these Republican districts, in these heavily Republican districts where they're doing these town halls and the Republicans are calling out the Republicans and saying, what the F is going on here? This is not what I voted for. And then you get people like Hegseth, who is just another cartoon character, a very good looking cartoon character. I'll give him that. But man, he's stupid. And he thinks if he uses a couple of 25-cent words that he'll sound sharp, but he doesn't even know how to use them. So that's not good. But I guess for people who don't realize that he's using them improperly, that maybe they'll be impressed. I mean, he's so unqualified for his position. He was qualified to be the weekend news anchor for Fox. He should have stuck with that, but maybe he can get his old job back once he gets fired or resigns or whatever. I mean, won't all these people get thrown to the wolves? Isn't that it's like The Apprentice, but on a national platform, basically. So as these Republican districts are getting more vocal against their own party, there's also things like that Benedictine college commencement address, where the president of the college is talking about how all of the women that are graduating really should just be looking forward to getting married and having kids, that's what they're put on this planet to do. And I know that that's like a whole religious thing, and it's, to me, it's more like a cult kind of thing. I do believe in parents being hands-on with their kids. Absolutely. I mean, I've been very hands-on with my kids. I've worked as a nanny. I've had a nanny, but parents need to be involved with their kids. That's imperative. You can't have nannies raise your kids. Like, why are you even having kids if you're just having nannies raise your kids? You know, and your nanny becomes part of your family in a good situation. I mean, I felt like that. There were 2 families that I nannied for that I really felt like I was part of the family, and I'm still in touch with them. And I think they felt like I was part of the family too. And the person that nannied for us, she is definitely part of the family. She was like a big sister or an aunt or a best friend. I mean, she was awesome. But to say that, like, yeah, in a sense, we're all put on this earth to procreate. I mean, in a real basic animalistic sense, sure. But we're also put on this earth, in my opinion, just to be ourselves, and just to figure out what our purpose is, to find meaning in what we do, to find meaning in the work that we do, to find meaning in our lives, with our friends, with our family. It's so important. And I personally have always felt
extremely fortunate to feel like I am where I'm supposed to be and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and that I have a special purpose, to quote Steve Martin in The Jerk. When I found my special purpose, if you guys remember that one. And there was that whole thing with oh, I even did some of the studies in it. The author was Warren, and the whole purpose with life with a purpose, living with a purpose. Let's see. A purpose driven life. Was that it? It'll tell me in a second. Yeah, The Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren. That book was so popular. That was back in 2002. That's funny because my oldest child was born in 2002. And yeah, it was all the rage. The Purpose Driven Life is a Bible study book written by Christian pastor Rick Warren and published in 2002. I'll just read a little bit more about what Wikipedia says. The book offers a 40-day personal spiritual journey and presents what Warren says are God's 5 purposes for human life on earth. And I did one of those 40-day studies with my church, and that was back in Marysville, Washington. But it's been 20 years and many kids later, so sorry that my brain is so fried. So Rick Warren, A Purpose-Driven Life. I think it's really important for all of us to find meaning in our life, to create meaning in our lives. Having kids is something that a lot of people want to do. Not everybody can do it, either because they can't get pregnant or they just don't have the right circumstances. It's extremely rewarding to have a family, to procreate and have kids. It's extremely rewarding, and it's also extremely challenging. And to say that that's what women are put on this earth for is very, very Handmaid's Tale-esque, and that is disgusting, to quote my youngest son when he was 2. Disgusting. I love that when he said that. It's important. It's definitely important, but so is the rest of a woman's life. A woman's value doesn't depend on her motherhood. Like if she's a childless cat lady, that's okay. It's absolutely okay. If she's childless and doesn't even own any pets, that's also okay. It's just disgusting to me for men to tell women, to try to define women. Like women, everyone needs to define themselves for themselves. Men need to do that for themselves. Women need to do that for themselves. And I think if we're all doing that for ourselves, that we will feel a purpose-driven life, basically. So I think I want to end on that. It's only been like an hour and 20 minutes almost, but like I said, I do have errands to get to. And there's nobody in the chat. I know, I'm just so boring, so scatterbrained. I apologize. I'm very, very, very happy that I have my channel. I'm very happy to be speaking my truth, even if it's not popular. That's okay with me. It's way more important to be following the beat of your own drum than having a following, basically. There's a line in one of those AJR songs. What is it? Do I follow something or do I follow the click in my ear? It's in the Come Hang Out song, which is one of my favorites. Where are the lyrics? Come hang out. Such a good song. If I play it, I'll get demonetized and I won't make my penny off of this video. Such a great song. One of my top favorites of theirs. Come Hang Out lyrics. Should I go for more clicks this year or should I follow the click in my ear? I knew it was important for me to find that. It's such a cute song. It's basically about being really successful with their music, and they have found their success with their music online. They're like an online kind of band. I mean, just growing up in the times that they grew up and living in New York City, and rather than having a recording studio, they would record, since they're three brothers, they would just record in their apartment and use their computers and all of their ingenuity to edit and synthesize their music. And it's just phenomenal. I mean, they do have instruments in their music, but they're so talented. So talented. I'm going to put this song in the description so you can check it out if you'd like. Should I go for more clicks this year? Or should I follow the click in my ear? What's the line right before that? Last album sales could have been higher. Maybe that's why I haven't seen friends in a while. They're at a bar down in the Bahamas while I'm doing promo trying to blow up in Chicago. It's about missing out on all of the fun stuff with the friends. Come hang out. K Mac says, I've been listening to you. Hi, not the first time, but first time I've commented. Well, hello, K Mac. Nice to see you. Thank you for saying hi. Very sweet. I was just about to log off. Do you want to share what state you're in or what country you're in? It's just always curious. I'm in the southwest region of Ohio. I like to call it Ohio. I love this state, but for a long time, I've had my channel for 2.5 years, and I would just leave it at that. Like, I'm in the state of Ohio. I'm not going to say which region, but it was when all of this stuff was going on with the cats and dogs being eaten in Springfield, Ohio, which was so crazy. And I live right outside of Springfield, Ohio. So I was just like, I need to talk about this. So that's when I started letting people know a more specific area of where I live, because at the time that happened, we were actually looking to buy a house in the Springfield city limits. There were some nice houses there. It's not a very nice city. It's always been kind of a rough city, but good prices. So some nice houses with some good prices. You can get a nice Victorian beater house in downtown Springfield, probably for $10,000. It's going to be in a shotgun neighborhood where it's not going to be safe to live, but that's how run down Springfield is. It's kind of a ghost town. Fred Field, hola, catch on replay. So yeah, when all of that stuff was going on and they were talking about how beautiful Springfield was, how it was like this Mayberry kind of town, and then the Haitians descended upon it and just ruined it. It's like, no, it wasn't like that. It was never a Mayberry kind of town to begin with. It was always kind of a more blue collar, rough around the edges kind of town. And then back in the 70s and 80s, it was a publishing city. The whole city was built around publishing and printing. Like every magazine in the world, I think, was printed in Springfield, Ohio. So when things started going digital, like in the 90s, and then especially now, the city died. I mean, it shriveled up and died. And there's all these like beautiful warehouses that are just sitting empty. And there's still other factory jobs in the city of Springfield, but the economy there was good at the height of publishing, which it hasn't been at the height since late 70s, early 80s. And even back then, it wasn't the nicest city. There was a lot of crime, a lot of violence. Oh, Yocala, Oregon, population 1,000. Wow. See, and that's why I don't ask for specific locations because, we don't want anyone to come to Yocala looking for anybody when it's such a tiny town. But yeah, Springfield was like 80,000 maybe at its largest. And then in the mid 90s, it probably dropped to like 50,000, and then it was probably declining ever since 50,000 in the 90s. Most of the cities in Ohio have been basically dying since crack cocaine, since crystal meth in the 90s. And, we're a state with a lot of educational facilities. We're also a state with a lot of trafficking of substances and the other type of trafficking. So it's a weird mix. It's a really weird mix. But when Springfield was dwindling down and all the other cities in Ohio were also dwindling down, Columbus was the only city that wasn't. Columbus has been on a continuous uptick, and there's so much that Columbus has to offer. I love that city. That's where my mama was born there, and my grandparents went to OSU. So I feel a lot of connection there. But also, that's funny because that's where the vice president went for one of his degrees. He went to Harvard for one of his degrees. He went to OSU for one of his degrees. And then, he unleashed this insanity on this town of Springfield. You guys might not know this, but Springfield had a lot of bomb threats for a long time, and they still probably aren't 100% out of the woods. There's still a little bit of residual around all that. So when the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, brought Haitians to the city of Springfield, it was a lot, but it was all set up for these folks to basically be refugees and to have jobs and to help the economy of Springfield. So it was a win-win situation. I'm not saying that it was a perfect situation because I know it's far from it. However, they weren't eating anybody's cats and dogs, and that whole thing was crazy. And it was just really sad because there was already a lot of racism against the Haitians, and then it was just dangerous not only for them but for everybody, like even white people, to go to the grocery store because the grocery stores were getting bomb threats and having lockdowns. It was awful. Like the schools were on lockdown. It was like COVID all over again. And the government buildings, it was so crazy. I'm in the woods here. All my neighbors would know somebody was looking for me. Oh, that's cute. Yeah, that's great. That's the way small towns are. Did you email me the 3 things you accomplished yesterday to avoid being fired from YouTube? Oh, Fred, thank you so much for saying that. I wanted to share a really cute comedy thing with you guys. Nobody could find me. I love it. Oh, you are too funny. You guys have probably all seen a ton of funny things about that whole email thing. Let me recommend Jimmy Fallon. I think he took the cake. I watched like all of my favorites talking about it. Like, I didn't watch Seth Meyers, but Jimmy Kimmel and Jon Stewart and Jimmy Fallon. Isn't there one other than Seth Meyers? Anyway, they were all hilarious. Hilarious. I'd say that Jimmy Fallon was my absolute favorite about it, and Kimmel was probably right up there with him. I mean, Jon Stewart's always great. And then I haven't caught to see if there was a Seth Meyers one, but this is a little cartoon that, who was it? The content creator Chris Norland put it in one of his videos. I love Chris Norland. He went to school with Elon Musk. You guys, he knows a lot about the muskrat. And it says it's 2 women here sitting at their desk with their coffee and their laptop or their desktop computer and their cell phones. And it says, Elon Musk says I have to justify my job, then forward his email to 10 federal employees or I'll have bad luck. And that's just really funny with for people my age with the chainmail, right? Good old chainmail. Oh, I took some screenshots of Caroline with a K Levitt holding a gaggle outside the White House, and she's like literally flipping her hair. And this is one of the times when she was getting angry at everybody. But she's like literally flipping her hair. It's so funny because she changed her hairstyle after I was talking about how she would like kind of fake flip it and try not to flip it, but you could like see it coming in front of her eye, and then she'd try to like subversively flip her hair. Then she changed it, and then she had her hair down and it was windy. So she wasn't just getting it out of her face, she's flipping it because she doesn't want to put it behind her ear. I don't know why. I think that's a cute hairstyle to have your hair behind your ear. But anywho, yeah, justice for Teresa Boren Poll and justice for the Idaho 4, justice for Gabby. Brian Laundrie and his parents, they need to go down. Justice for Kylie. I've been reviewing old videos of people covering Kylie Rodney's case, and it's just phenomenal the stuff that we forget about, the stuff that is like common knowledge, and then we forget about it. I'm trying to think of a good example, but of course I can't since I don't have it in my notes. This is why I have notes. Anna Bees, no, I can't go anywhere with you just showing up, my dear. How are you? How's your day? Is it? It's Tuesday. I was going to say, is it Monday? I've just been behind the 8 ball with the puppy dog and the severe side effects that they're calling it a severe reaction to the radiation. So she's okay and they expect her to recover fully, but it was really touch and go the last 4 days. So, oh, my little baby. She's so sweet too, and she's so smart. So she's doing well. So prayers for Coco, if you don't mind. And I am going to sign off, although if you want to say a couple more things. Oh, here you go. Anna says, I have an idea in Gabby's case. Do share, my dear. I was just going to say, unless you have something else you want to talk about, I am curious. And have you watched Paula Plunder's most recent body cam footage from Melissa Hall, the federal employee park ranger that was out there on site with that case? I think that Brian Laundrie scratched his own face, and maybe he scratched his arms too. I think when he was sitting in the car and they took Gabby out to talk to her, I think he was self-injuring to say, well, Gabby did it with her rings and her cell phone. And, I'm just like this meek little guy trying to get away from my 110-pound gorgeous waif girlfriend who just attacks me because I have dirty feet and I can't help it. I can't afford shoes because I don't work. My parents won't buy me any. Yes, it's Tuesday and it's my birthday. Oh, happy birthday, K-Mac. Thanks for sharing. Do you want to say how old you are or how young you are? Yes, it is February 25th of 2025. I'm glad I looked at the whole date because that's cool. 2/25/2025. Anna B says, show everyone says he looked older. What if he is older and faked that he was 10 years younger? Yeah, I've totally thought that, Anna Bees. I've totally thought that. And I want to bring up too, again, I don't like to criticize people for their looks, but when they're disgusting people that unalive other people, I'll criticize them as much as I want. And I would imagine most people probably feel the same way. I cannot stand his peanut head, the shape of his chin, and it's a lot like Chris Watts' peanut head, but their weird jawbone or lack thereof is so creepy. And, there are some facial features that Chris Watts have that could
possibly be fetal alcohol syndrome. And I don't know with Brian Laundrie. I don't know. I mean, either of those guys could have fetal alcohol syndrome. I mean, it does weird things to your brain and it makes empathy really impossible. Not to belittle anybody who's been victimized by being born with fetal alcohol syndrome or other negative substance effects that babies can have when their parents abuse, when their parents are exposed to some chemicals or illnesses. But yeah. Oh, K-Mac is 73 today, 73 years young. Well, that's awesome. So what does that mean as far as what year you were born? You were born in the 50s? Can I do math? Were you born in 1952? No, I'm wrong. I'd have to write it down. um, yeah, maybe you were born in 1952. Am I doing my math right? Yes, you are right, Jez. Yeah, Anna, watching that 3-part series on Netflix, probably everyone has seen it by now. He definitely looks a lot older. And even in the high school footage, because the two of them went to high school together. And actually, him being 10 years older would fit, your theory would fit with him not knowing how to use a computer. Because in the body cam footage with Melissa Hull, Gabby says he doesn't even know how to use a computer. And I'm thinking he'd be 27 years old right now. I have a niece who's 27 years old. Every 27-year-old in our country probably knows how to use a computer. Like, unless maybe you were homeschooled without a computer, but how could you go to public schools and not know how to use a computer? And supposedly Gabby and Brian went to the same high school up there in Northport, Blue Point. So confusing. I think it's Northport and Blue Point is the one in Long Island where they went to high school. So even in photographs that they show in the documentary of him in high school, he looks older, and everybody at the high school thought that he looked a lot older. And then, I mean, he went bald in his early 20s or even earlier. Was he already going bald when he was allegedly a teenager? I mean, that's very uncommon. Very, very uncommon. I think you could be onto something, Annabise. And also remember that his sister is 10 years older than him. So yeah, maybe his age is bullcrap, right? And Fred says, I'm 77, lucky number 77. So Fred, my mother passed away a few years ago. I think she was 79 when she passed away. But she was 77. And she loved being 77 because she thought the number was so cool. So she was really sad on her next birthday when she was no longer going to be 77 anymore. And the funniest thing was that we literally had been doing our math wrong for over a year. And she had been 76 that whole year. So she was turning 77 when she thought she was turning 78. Like all of us, she was having such major medical health issues. It's no wonder that we were all like in a fog, because she barely survived the last like 3 years of her life. So it was like 1 year into that where we really thought time was up. She had kidney failure and every complication under the sun. She'd had kidney failure already for 6 years. And then she lived another 4 years. So altogether, she had kidney failure for 10 years, which is a long time to live with kidney failure. Anyway, so she got to be 77 twice, legitimately, because we legitimately thought she was 77 for that whole year. And then she actually was 77. So then at the end of that year, when she was turning 78, I was like, she was hanging on by a thread anyway. So I was like, why don't you just be 77 again for a third time since you like that number so much? So I think Brian Laundrie and his family are all strange. Yeah. So Cassie is allegedly 10 years older than him. Oh man, she looks like a Dune character, doesn't she? She looks like one of the like mud sand people. Weird. And then Roberta and Chris. I mean, obviously Roberta's like Latin American with a first name like that, and she's kind of she's not like a brown person, but kind of. I mean, she might be like half um, South American or something like that, Latin American. If you can figure out what year I was born, you'll know it's my lucky day. Well, I'd have to have a brain that did math. So 75 years ago would be 1950. And then that doesn't make any sense. Oh, yeah. So 1948. Okay, got it. Because, yeah, my mom was born in 43. So I was getting all confused. So 1948. So 22548. I think I nailed it. Do I get a gold star? And I can't do math in my head. Well, I can do math sometimes in my head, but I really can't do math when I'm on air. I used to literally be like a math whiz. I grew up being like way ahead in math. I finished all of our math at our high school by the time I was in like 10th grade. And then I scored so incredibly high on the SATs in math. Like I almost got all of my points in math. I got very little in the language arts. Not because I wasn't good with language arts, but just because I'm not good with standardized tests, I guess, with language arts. But anyway, to compensate for it, I got like, I wouldn't say close to a perfect score in math, but I was like over the 90 percentile in math. And then I was like probably like 50 percentile in language arts. Anyway, just bragging because now I'm so stupid I can't add. So, and especially on the air. Because, yeah, the brain just works differently when you're on air. It's hilarious. He went back to high school because he is a predator. Anna Bees. Oh, my goodness. That is wild. I went to college with somebody from Butte, Montana, who was a little bit older than everybody at the college, and he was a predator. And then I went back there to pick up some documents from my school like years later, and I ran into him in the hallway in the stairwell, and he was still a student. This was at Evergreen State College. He was definitely a predator. And yeah, colleges, high schools are excellent places for predators. They get fresh meat every year. That's so gross. Sorry. Trigger warning. I saw that in the docu-series. Oh, wait. You mean they say that? They don't say that in the docu-series, do they? So this year is 25, born in 52. Now I'm really confused. Oh, because I was thinking 77. I was getting confused. So 73. Okay. See, numbers and me just don't get along when I'm on live. So, Fred, were you born in 48? Maybe? Give or take. And so, yeah, you're 73. I was making you 4 years older. So, sorry about that. Maybe you want to be older, like a fine wine, right? My number are the same as the day I was born, but backwards. Right. I was trying to figure out why you were saying that it was like your lucky day. Okay. Yeah, that is really cool. So 22552. Exactly. They're all crazy. Never going to happen again.
She does. LOL. Maddie's 2 teachers that were predators. Yeah, I've been avoiding the Maddie Soto case. It just breaks my heart. It just like puts a dagger through my heart every time I learn more crap about what that poor little child went through. And Fred was born in 1947. Dang it, I was off by a year. But I did say 48, give or take a year, because I didn't know what month. See, that's crazy. I realized in the docuseries, no, they didn't say that. I realized that, and I couldn't wait to tell you. Wow, Annabise, I might watch it again, because I think I don't know if I watched the whole thing 2 times. I know I watched parts of it twice, but I sometimes need to watch things 2 or 3 times really to get a firm grip on the whole picture, because I really like to get the full picture. I really like to see, like, with a wide angle lens, what's going on. So yeah, I might just watch the whole thing a 3rd time. So thanks for that input, Annabise. It's all my opinion. Well, I think that you have good reason to think that, and it fits just with how bald he is, but it also fits with him not knowing how to use a computer. Um, it fits with the ages of his parents and his sister. So they said that he was 10 years younger than Cassie. But what if they were twins? What if they were fraternal twins? No, I'm just kidding. What if the whole family is just a complete loony bin? That fits, right? All right. So we are at 1 hour and 46 minutes. So I am going to sign off. Thanks so much for being here. Sending you guys love and light, and hope you're having a really good beginning of your work week. Hopefully it's a really productive work week. Hopefully you don't get laid off by a muskrat. Hopefully you don't have to justify your existence with bullet points. And the irony of both of those man babies accusing everyone of not working, not being productive, when they don't seem to be working or being very productive, in my humble opinion. So, on that, signing off. Have a really good rest of your day. One of my friends got laid off from the VA hospital. And I woke up this morning thinking getting a job as a psychotherapist at the VA was like one of my dream jobs, because I wanted to have the security of a federal job. And I haven't come that close to getting hired by the VA, but I have come kind of close once or twice. And just this morning, I thought, wow, if I had that job and thought I had all that security, and even if I hadn't been laid off yet, like, how nerve wracking is that? Because, yeah, when you get a federal position, you know that you kind of have it made, but you have to work hard, and there's a lot that you have to put up with. So it's no cakewalk. It's absolutely no cakewalk. I'm really sorry for your friend Annabise. Was she, were they in the medical field, or were they like administrative? She got one of those emails from Doge. Ugh, it's crazy. And then I saw the back and forth, the threat that you have to respond to this. And then, Cash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard, and I think another individual, all told their people, no, you don't have to respond. And then the people are like caught in the middle. Like, if they don't respond, I think it's great that these appointees were undermining Doge publicly and showing their disrespect for Elon, like spitting in his eye. She was a nurse, is a nurse. Well, hopefully she can get a new job, because nurses are in such high demand. I'm losing 1 day, 4-day week instead of my 5-day work week. I am sorry, Fred. That sucks for your income. That might be good for, in some ways, that might be good for your health and your stress level, but, having your income reduced by 20% is not really good for your health or stress level. So She didn't respond on time because it was sent on her days off. Well, that was the other thing, was he sent that crap on Saturday afternoon, close to 5 o'clock, and told people they had, was it midnight last night or midnight Sunday night to respond? But on a Saturday, that's effing crazy. He's just out of his mind. He's so high on drugs, in my opinion. All right, you guys. Hopefully, we'll be able to do a live each day this week at around noon. And sorry for the mix up with saying that it was going to be at midnight. That was goofy AF. So, love and light. Have a really good day. Take care of yourself. Drink your water. Eat your protein. Eat lots of fruits and veggies. And see you soon. Thanks for being here. A good worker checks email 24/7. Oh, that's funny. Ha. but he can't respond to his email from his baby mamas. Bye, everyone. Love and light.